Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, July 29th, and we are previewing UFC 201 right now with regular guest Nick Kalikas, who comes to us from MMAOddsBreaker.com. Nick Kalikas, of course, is a professional MMA odds maker. He consults for numerous high-profile sports books, and he opens opening lines for all the major MMA fights. Nick Kalikas, thanks for being back with us.
My pleasure.
All right, Nick. Tyron Woodley and Robbie Lawler, the main event of UFC 201 is what we're going to take a look at right now. Nick Kalikas, I think I have a good bet here. Does that surprise you at all?
Not at all. You've been on it too. So
all right, I'll tell you what I think I'm liking here. Woodley and Lawler, obviously. Robbie Lawler, a brawler, huge career resurgence, just a great MMA story. And then Woodley's been out of the ring for 18 months. He is tremendously talented, though. Very, very fast, lightning fast. Both these guys are brawlers, great strikers. So that explains to me why the total for this fight is so low, 2.5. The over's minus 140, the under's plus 120. But I think the good bet here is on the over 2.5 rounds at minus 140. We've seen how Lawler, even though he's a brawler, his last bunch of fights have all been slugfests. They've still gone, long. Some of them went the distance, and they've been longer. They weren't fights that ended quickly. I think Tyron Woodley, he's a great defensive fighter. He's going to be very wary of Lawler's striking and his brawling, and he's going to probably have a game plan to extend it out a little bit. I like over 2.5 at minus 140. If it was like minus 230 or something, no. But at minus 140, I like it. What do you think, Nick Kalikas?
Probably lean with you there as well on over 2.5 rounds, but it is tricky. Because for Woodley, he's a dynamic, explosive fighter, but the rap that he has on him is as the fight goes, he tends to slow down a little bit, and his cardio is definitely concerned. Now, obviously, he can go 3 rounds strong, but in the championship rounds, even in the past, we've seen some issues with Woodley's cardio, and I think in round 4, round 5, obviously, he's going to be in some trouble there. So at that 2.5 round mark, if he starts slowing down, that's when Woodley is in trouble a little bit, because obviously Robbie Lawler, as you pointed out, the aggressive brawling style that he has, that's very effective. You can't be tired and absorb punishment like Lawler's going to be throwing at him at that time. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky. But if I had to pick between 2.5 under or over, I would definitely go over again. We've talked about it before. It seems like most people like the unders a lot, and it seems to go over more times than not. So the sharp side would probably be over that 2.5. And when you're laying only $140, it's not bad at all. So
that was kind of a lukewarm endorsement. Is your problem with the over that you think Woodley's going to tire, or do you think that he expects himself to tire, so therefore he's going to try to win it in the first 2 rounds?
You can't really fix cardio too much. I think Woodley's going to show up to this fight the best we've seen him. I know he's had some time off now, and that's necessarily not a good thing, but I really think that he is focused on this title shot. I think his cardio is going to be ever better than it's ever been, but a lot of fighters cannot really address that issue. No matter how hard they work, it just seems like they can't get their cardio in check. So I do expect him to have some cardio issues.
Right,
so, yeah,
but that'll be in the championship rounds. Are you saying that because of those issues, that you think he's going to strategically try to end the fight early?
Yeah, and I think he's going to want to stand and bang, and he's got such explosive power that honestly, I think if Woodley wins the fight, it's probably early, and I think he does have a decent shot at winning this fight. So if he wins it, it might be in the first couple rounds, as crazy as that sounds. I know Lawler's a very tough guy, but to me, Woodley has that explosive power that can really, if you have a good chin, he could put you out. And if you have a suspect chin, he could definitely put you out. Now, Lawler falls under the good chin category, obviously, but he has been rocked. He's been in all those wars recently as well.
Yeah, obviously.
I'm just expecting that chin to eventually go down. And if anybody could test it, it's a guy like Woodley. He's got that kind of crazy power with, again, that speed that goes along with it and accuracy. He puts people out with one punch often.
Right.
So that's what worries me about Lawler in this spot. As it goes, it does benefit him a little bit, but in the first few rounds, man, Woodley's going to be right there, and he's going to be aggressive, and he's going to be tough to deal with.
Right, and that makes me think that Lawler's strategy is going to be to, because Lawler's a very smart fighter. His ring IQ his fight IQ is great. I think maybe he'll try to, contain Woodley and sort of, just keep him wrapped up for a round so that he doesn't have so that his potential to be, explosively rock Lawler is minimized in the first 2 rounds, right?
I would think so, but you know what? Once you get hit, strategy kind of goes out the window. They're going to start slugging it out a little bit as well. Once he gets hit hard, feels that first shot. I think that might all go out the window, and they start just kind of brawling a little bit there as well. So it is tough, man. And I'll tell you what, for Woodley, I would not wrestle in this spot. He's a wrestler. That's what his background is. But why wear yourself out? Because you're not going to be able to control Lawler on the ground very often. Who's done it? You might be able to get a quick takedown and just get him down momentarily, but you're not going to probably be able to hold Lawler down. So the more wrestling Woodley does, that's not good for his cardio.
Yeah.
He needs to, as crazy as it sounds, he needs to stand and bang with the brawler.
Yeah.
That's what's going to win him this fight. So that's what I think is going to probably happen. If he starts wrestling right away, wow, Woodley's in some serious trouble.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The first round obviously is the danger zone for Lawler, and I'm assuming he's going to be aware of that. I'm assuming he's going to try to be a little bit cautious or defensive in that round. Then we get to round 2, and who knows what happens there, and that more likely than not it goes over just 2.5 rounds. But I could be wrong. All right, let's get to the side right now. The line I'm seeing is Lawler at -150, Woodley at the other side +130. Obviously, the betting markets tend to. I feel like the betting action tends to come in on Woodley, and whether that's justified or not here is up for debate. Where'd you open this line?
Yeah, it has come in, and just recently, actually, it's come in heavier because this line's been sitting out there for a while, and it was holding steady for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It opened at 280 for Lawler.
Wow,
and it's all the way down. Yeah,
right.
It's all the way down to 150. But now a lot of that you got to consider as public hype, and again, it was staying steady for a while, but there has been sharp action that came in on Woodley, and along the way, for the sports books, I do put them in a spot, and I tell them that you got to make adjustments as you go.
Yeah.
I mean, a good example of that would be the Holly Holm Shevchenko fight that we just recently saw, the dog coming through. We talked about it on here.
Yes.
And we said the sharp action hit Shevchenko in that fight.
Yes.
And obviously they were right. I mean, they're not always going to be right, but they were right. And I thought she had a good chance to win that fight as well myself. So when you see a path for victory for the underdog, you have to be cautious. So even if the opener is a little bit higher, you constantly make adjustments as you go because you don't want to get buried on that dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you might have overshot the line a little bit. And that's exactly the case. Believe it or not, 5 Dimes made a killing on that Shevchenko win, and it looked like they would get buried on that fight. So the line movement doesn't always tell the story with the sports books, especially if they're on top of it and they're getting action where they want to be. So that's almost a similar case here. You got to make adjustments. If you're not getting a ton of bites on Lawler at this spot and you're getting some sharp action on the dog, you're going to move a little bit more drastic. And of course, with sharp action coming in on the underdog, it's kind of caused a chain reaction across the market as well. So some of the books didn't even get hit, and they moved, to stay with market price as well.
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that in Woodley fights in general, if you like him, you want to bet him early, and if you want to bet against him, you want to bet late and wait to take the other side. So that certainly is the case with how the line movement happened here. And I guess if anyone looking to bet on Lawler and use that strategy is going to be getting the best of it, do you think Lawler is worth a shot now at -150? Or my sense is that where the odds are right now, again, yeah, like you said, Woodley definitely has a shot early on, but later on, I would definitely give the edge to Lawler. And I think that Lawler in general is probably a little bit overvalued at this point in his career, but he's still an elite, obviously, welterweight. So I feel like my sense is that where the lines are right now, -150 for Lawler is right about where they should be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is a better spot than the opener, honestly, because again, Woodley, you got to respect the man. I mean, they're just stylistically how they match up. Of course, they used to train together as well. They're both American top team guys, so they know each other well. So you know what? Going back to that real quick too. I mean, they could give each other enough respect, and
exactly,
it kind of trickle to the over a little bit too, especially if Woodley paces himself a little bit more. If Lawler's really not pushing the high pace and making him fight in a war, I mean, because I know in the back of Woodley's mind that cardio issue has to be there.
Yeah,
he knows that he slows down as the fight goes as well. So that could, I mean, that benefits your total of over 2.5 rounds, like you said there. But so we could see some of that, and who knows, man? I mean, maybe this is the type of fight that actually does hit the scorecards, and Woodley stays fresh enough to steal 3 out of 5 rounds. I mean, that is a possibility too.
And that Lawler respects Woodley's striking, and that Lawler knows that he's gotten hit a lot in his career, and that they're both getting a little bit older. I don't know, Nick Kalikas. I think my best bet on this one would be the over 2.5 at -140. And despite your only lukewarm endorsement of it, I think I'm still liking it quite a bit. What do you think?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, at a decent dog price, right now where it's at now, I wouldn't take Woodley. Honestly, I would just probably stay away. I don't think I laid the juice on Lawler, even though it's come down. A lot of people are going to say there's some value there because the lines dropped so drastically. And again, what we just discussed with, he should have an edge as the fight goes a little bit more. But I would probably stay away. So if I had to pick anything, I mean, again, earlier when it was closer to +200, +175, +185, it would have been a dog or pass situation. I probably would have hit the dog. But where it's at now at +130, it looks like out there's +125s. I would probably stay away. And if I was going to take anything, I would lean with you a little bit more on the total. But it is going to be close. That's what you got to sweat. But laying 140 is not bad. I mean, you just can't lay a lot of, can't make it a huge unit size bet.
I mean, what's your sense on Lawler in general? Do you think he's overvalued right now, that he's overachieved a little bit, or do you think that, he's still sort of on the ascent in his career, or at least still plateauing?
He's overvalued slightly. I mean, it is what it is. I have a ton of respect for him because what he's able to do in this second UFC run is phenomenal. I mean, he's been around the sport for so long. I don't think the newbies of the sport realize how long Lawler's been around.
Oh, yeah.
And how long he's been successful. I mean, it's been forever.
And he had so much hype when he started out and then was a complete dud as far as a prospect when he was like 20 or whatever, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just kind of fizzled out and you thought, okay, the guy's good. He's going to beat a lot of fighters, but he's never going to achieve greatness. And he has, man. I mean, his performances, his fights have been wars. I mean, he's just a fan-friendly fighter. I mean, every one of his fights is exciting. I mean, he gets in these brawls and he delivers. And he's put in the work. I mean, mentality, everything. He's gotten more mature. I mean, he was one of those kind of late bloomers, if that makes sense a little bit, in his career. I mean, really, he started training a lot better. He tried to start training, obviously, more serious. I mean, his takedown defense got to the point where these wrestlers can't bully him around, which is phenomenal to see that as well. It's hard to do. So, yeah, he's definitely at the peak of his career. But look at those fights. I mean, he took some damage against Condit. He took some damage against Rory. Even though he's winning these fights, he's taken a lot of damage. The Hendricks battles were crazy as well. So all of that being said, he's fighting the best of the best recently in the UFC. He's winning, but they've been squeakers in a lot of ways. I mean, the decisions have been really tight, and he's been taking punishment. He's been rocked. So I'm expecting a guy like Woodley, if he rocks him, Woodley has that killer instinct. He'll put him out.
Yeah.
And I just think that eventually it's going to come. I kind of hope it doesn't because I am a Lawler fan. I mean, just the way he's gone about everything, you kind of have to be if you're a diehard MMA fan. But so I kind of want to see him extend this run for a while. But it's just that scenario that I think his time is coming. And I think if it's not this fight, then depending on the matchup next time for him, if he does win this fight, it's coming. He's probably going to end up losing that strap.
And it
no
sounds like
And
it sounds like the books are going to need Lawler here because so much money came in on Woodley.
I don't think so. I mean, we're going to try our best to draw some action back on Lawler as well. Right now, yeah, that's the case. They need Lawler. But by fight day, which is coming around tomorrow, obviously, as you know, too, there's going to be a lot more heavy action coming in. And they're already starting to get action on Lawler with the price drop, but they're not going to move as much. So they'll probably take hits at that 150 spot that they're at right now, 145, 150 out there. They'll take some hits before they end up actually moving back up. And they will because some public action will definitely come back in on Robbie Lawler. I mean, through what he's accomplished. And then a lot of sharp opinion out there is going to agree with what we said about the cardio, the fading. If Lawler can survive the early couple rounds, it should be his advantage. So that stuff's going to spread around, and people that not necessarily know the sport well is going to come in and probably hit Lawler. So I wouldn't be surprised if it creeps back up some, but we're going to be cautious with that fight. So if it's not the case, if they're not getting enough action on Lawler, then it's probably going to drop down a little bit more to kind of assure that at least it's close to even, and we're not going to get buried in the spot.
All right, Nick. Well, my official pick on the fight, I am going to give it out officially, stake my public reputation on it, over 2.5 rounds at -140. If you had to give a pick, side or total, on the fight at the lines right now, Lawler -150, Woodley +130, or the total, what would it be, Nick?
I would probably take the total, over 2.5 with you.
Really?
Right now, price is. Yeah, with you right now. Because like I said, I don't know. I mean, it kind of scares me with so much of the line dropping like it is right now too as well, even though they're sharp action, they hit it. I mean, like I said, at +130, I'll probably stay away. I'd rather probably take a stab, maybe seeing that both guys are warriors. They survived to get over that 2.5 mark. And that's even with me saying that if Woodley wins, he probably wins early on a little bit as well. So, but yeah, I think out of all the scenarios right now where the lines are, I'd probably pass. But if I had to take something, I'd go with you on that total over 2.5. And you've been sharp on those totals, man.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
not to go with you.
Nick Kalikas from MMAOddsBreaker.com. Thanks so much once again.
Thank you.
Always on the go? Bet365 has one of the top mobile platforms in today's market. Sign up today and don't let your busy life keep you out of the game.